Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of HISD TV. My name is Miss McCullough and I am the 4th grade math teacher for this segment. Hi 4th graders! I just wanted to say that you guys are rocking it and we are one more week down and we are super close to summer break. I know so many of you are so excited, but guys, just because summer is coming does not mean that we should give up. We need to keep trying set and work super hard until the last day so that we can get it all done and we can really enjoy our summer and be super prepared when we go into 5th grade. I'm so proud of you future 5th graders and I know that you guys are gonna do super great things. So with that being said, let's get right into our video. If you guys are already familiar with the things that you're gonna need for today's video, go ahead and take a moment to take those out. If not, you will need 3 things. The first thing is something to write on, so a sheet of paper, a notebook, anything you can write on. The second thing is that you're going to need something to write with. So that be a pencil, a pen. Also take out a highlighter if you have it. Highlighters are super important tools because they help us identify important things in math. And the third and most important thing that you guys need is somewhere to focus. So if you need to move things out like toys, technology, maybe if you need to let others around you know that this is time for your math time and your math video, you can go ahead and do so. I'm going to give everyone a couple of seconds to prepare and then we'll get started and read our objective. All right, guys, I hope you have everything and you're ready to go. Let's go in and read our objective today. Remember, our objective tells us 2 things. It tells us what we're going to learn and how we're going to apply what we learned in today's video. So if you're ready, 4th graders, give me a thumbs up to show that you're ready to read it. All right, read it along with me. Today we will determine if 2 given fractions are equivalent using a variety of methods, and we're going to compare 2 fractions with different numerators, different denominators, and represent them using the comparison symbols. All right, marvelous friends, now that we've read our objective, we know what's expected of us today. Let's get right into the math. Take out your pencil and let's get started. All right, 4th grade friends, so welcome to another video, a review of math. I'm so excited and can't believe that we have learned so much math this school year, and we are going to keep reviewing so that we are strong in these skills when we go to 5th grade. So let's start with our first vocabulary word for our review unit, which is on fractions. And you can see the vocabulary word here that says fraction. Remember, guys, a fraction is just a number such as a half or 2/3 that represents part of a whole. For example, I always like to think of it as a pizza. This entire circle is a pizza, right? How many pieces of pizza is our pizza cut into? Very good. 3 slices, right? We have 1, 2, and 3. So we have 3 equal slices. They look pretty equal to me. Do they look equal to you guys? Very good. Yep, they're 3 equal slices. And so we know that this 3 is our denominator, okay? And we'll get into what that means in just a second. And then this top number is our numerator. And this tells us how many of the 3 pieces of pizza we ate. And we see that we ate 2 slices here, right? So I like to think of it that way. So that's the word fraction. Hopefully that refreshed your memories a little bit. Let's get into the next word. What I was talking about is denominator, guys. Remember, the denominator tells us the total number of equal parts or groups there are in the pizza, or how many parts have been divided into. For example, in this example, we have 5 equal parts, right? And I always like to think of denominator as being the number that is down, and see how down starts with D and denominator starts for D. So down, denominator, that's always the number that's down, or the bottom one. The next word is benchmark fractions. Remember, guys, benchmark fractions are easy to round with and add and subtract. Just like compatible numbers, we like our benchmark fractions. These are fractions that are probably easy. Remember, fourths, halves, fifths, those are benchmark fractions. Our next word is numerator. We were just talking about denominators, so now we're talking about numerators. Numerator, guys, counts how many equal parts are described. So we can see here that 4 equal parts are green, distinguished or described, and that number is going to be on top. So numerator is on the top and the denominator is always down on the bottom. And our next word and our last word for this review unit is fractions greater than 1. This is a fraction whose numerator is greater than its denominator. Sometimes it's referred to as an improper fraction. So we can see here that we have 5/3. If we think of it this way, can we really eat 5 pieces of pizza if our pizza contains 3 pieces? No, right? If our pizza looks like this, how are we going to eat 5? This just tells us that we ate more than one entire whole, more than one entire pizza. So we ate 5 slices in total. We know that each pizza has 3 slices, so we can say that we ate a whole and 2/3 of a pizza. All right? Okay, guys, so now that we've reviewed and covered our vocabulary a little bit, we've refreshed our memories on fractions, I want us to take a look at these fraction bars right here. This is called a fraction bars. This basically, guys, puts fractions in a visual way for us to easily understand and remember kind of what they mean and what they look like. I know that when we usually do math, we've always thought of whole numbers up until fractions. And now we have to think of numbers as halves and wholes and thirds, but just think of them as pieces or parts of a whole. So here, for example, this entire red strip represents one whole. This is one whole part. Okay, one entire pizza or one entire candy bar. Now, if I were to cut this into halves, how many pieces would I have? Yeah, if you cut something in half, you have 2 pieces, and you see how this fits perfectly in here? All right, so we know that if we have one entire bar and we cut it into halves, we have 2 equal parts, and we can deduct that by looking at our denominator. Remember, guys, the denominator tells us the number of equal parts there are. And the same thing with thirds, fourths, fifths, and so on. This fraction bar set, guys, goes all the way to 12ths, but we are focusing in on some of our benchmark fractions today, like a half. We remember a fourth, right? And we remember a fifth. And of course, we remember a tenth. We remember tenths a lot when we talk about decimals. And I want you to see, guys, I cut out one piece on every fraction. And I want you to just take a look right here and look with me and see how I replaced every single part that was missing. And once I replaced every single part, it measures and lines up perfectly with the whole. So we know that they need 2 halves to make a whole. We need 4 fourths to make a whole, 5 fifths, and 10 tenths, and so on. So if I were to just fill in that missing piece, it would tell us how many pieces we need to make a whole, or how many slices this pizza is cut into, right? So guys, just as a visual mark as well, remember when we are comparing fractions, we can use these bars to our advantage, because what we can do is measure up the lines. For example, if I wanted to find out which fractions are equivalent to a half, I take this half mark line here and I follow it all the way down and find one that matches with it. And I see here that a fourth matches with it. Oh wait, how many fourths? 1, 2. You guys remember how we did that? So 1 half measures up with 2 fourths. Then we keep following this line and we say, oh, we stopped at 6th. So we know that 1 half is equivalent to 2 fourths, and 1, 2, 3, 6. And you guys can see you keep going and you'll find more and more and more. And that's basically how we compare fractions using a fraction bar set. And today, guys, we are going to get into equivalency and equivalent fractions, but we are not going to use a fraction bar set. We are going to create our own equivalency tables. And I promise you guys, this is going to be very easy to understand once you get the hang of it. So as you can see, my paper says, let's begin comparing fractions by writing out our equivalency tables. So fourth grade, if you're not familiar with these, please pay close attention. If you are already familiar with your equivalency tables, let's refresh our memories together and go ahead and complete them. Remember guys, we are going to start out with a line like this, and we are going to write 4 lines. And we can go as far as 10, as far as 20, right? But for this purpose of this video, we're gonna write out 4 lines just to refresh our memories. And we are going to go in each square on the top and label it 1 to 5, just like we would count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the denominator, we are going to start with 2. So when we start with 2, we know we have to count by 2. Very good. So we have 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. Awesome job. We are going to start our next equivalency tables. We're going to do 3 for today. All right, guys, if you can please just copy with me. And I want you to look at this next set here. And remember, we always label the top what? Very good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You guys are so smart. And then right here on the bottom, on the denominator, remember, we are going to begin with our 4th. So we know that we have to count by 4s. Very good. Remember 4th grade when we did input and output tables, right? This is very, very similar. So I'm going to give everyone around 10 seconds to finish up this table, and then I'll go ahead and write it in. Very good, guys. I'm going to go ahead. This is also very similar to a multiplication chart, right? We already know how to do this. And just us knowing this strategy helps us with so many math things. All right, and our next one, we are going to do fifths. Again, 4th grade, I'm going to give you a couple of seconds to finish this up. All right, everyone. And remember, we're counting by 5s. Okay, so now that we have our equivalency tables here, remember we have to look at it in a fractional way. So the top is going to be our numerators, and the bottom is going to be our, very good guys, the bottom is going to be our denominators. And remember, the cool trick I taught you is to count by 2s or whatever the denominator is to finish the equivalency table. All right, so we have our numerators and our denominators. And remember, as long as these numbers are all on the same line or all in the same table, they are equivalent. So these fractions are all equivalent. And I'm going to go ahead and write an equal sign here to show me that these are all equivalent. So 1/2 is the same thing as 2/4, is the same thing as 3/6, as 4/8, as 5/10. And if we look at it on our fraction chart, we can say that that's true. So we have a half and it says 2/4. Okay, so 1, 2, yep, measures up perfectly. The next one, 3/6, okay. 1, 2, 3, yep, measures up perfectly. So you guys see how we found the same thing we found on this fraction bars, but this time we found it through writing out our own equivalency tables. And we all know how to write these, right? We know how to write out our multiplication charts. We know how to write an input and output table. We've done this so many times in math. And this helps us really, really, really well with fractions. So this is our equivalency tables. And then right here, the same thing as a 4th. 1/4 is the same thing or equivalent to 2/8, to 3/12, to 4/16, and so on. Again with fifths, 1/5 is equivalent to 2/10, to 3/15, to 4/20, all of this, right? So what I want us to do now is to really pay closely attention, because I'm going to give every single one of these benchmark fractions a decimal value, okay? So when we speak of halves, let's think of fractions now as, instead of pizzas, let's think of them as money, as dollars. When we think of halves, can somebody tell me what half of a dollar is? Very, very good. Fourth grade. Half of a dollar is 50 cents, right? And we write that out like this, with a decimal point and 50. And can someone tell me what a fourth of a dollar is? Wow, you guys are so smart. A fourth of a dollar is 25 cents, right? That's a quarter of a dollar. We also call fourths quarters, right? So a quarter or a fourth of a dollar is 25 cents. And what about a fifth of a dollar? This one is tricky because we don't have a coin for it. Very good, fourth graders. A fifth of a dollar is, and if we count by twos or count by 20, we should be able to reach $1 or one whole. And let's do it. 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, or $1. Very good. So that's a fifth. Now let's just look at these decimal values. Can you guys conclude something? What do you see? Do you notice a change, or do you notice something? Yeah, very good. A lot of you notice that the decimal values in fact decrease, get smaller, right? Here we start out at the top with 50. Then we go to 25 cents. Then we're down to 20 cents. So what does this tell us about these fractions? They're all equivalent, right? But this one is smaller than this one, and this one is smaller than this one, and even this one, right? So we are going to go ahead, guys, and I invite you to draw an arrow that goes down like this. And this arrow here is going to help us as a visual to understand that 1/2 is the greatest fraction. And when we see our equivalency tables, we see that 1/2 is the greatest fractional unit, right? Because we start out with 1/2, and then we move to a fourth, and then we move to a fifth. And as we see, and we just wrote with this arrow, they gradually get smaller. Okay, guys, so what we're going to do now is we're going to put these fraction equivalency tables over to the side for a second. And what we're going to do is we're going to start some word problems, and we're going to do a few problems together, and we're going to use these tables to help us. So put them to the side, have them handy, but for now we're going to focus in on these problems and then use them as a strategy to help us out. All right, so let's start out by reading the question first. The question says, Greg sorted his collection of baseball cards. Greg will give 1/5 of his collection to his brother, and he will sell 4/10 of his collection to a card shop. The question then says, which statement is true? Greg will have exactly half of his collection left. Greg will sell more than half of his collection to a card shop. Greg will have less than half of his collection left, or Greg will give more than half of his collection to his brother. So what I'm going to do now, fourth grade, is I'm going to invite you to take out your highlighter. I'm going to take mine out, and I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to highlight the important information. So I'm going to start out, and I see that it says, Greg will give 1/5 of his collection to his brother. So I'm going to highlight the word give because that tells me something in math. What does give tell you? Yeah, that you're subtracting, that you're giving it away. You're taking something away, right? You're giving it. So this is give 1/5 of his collection to his brothers. I'm going to highlight that. So he's going to give 1/5 of that. The next statement says that he will sell 4/10 of his collection to a card shop. And again, if we sell something, fourth grade, are we adding to what we have, or are we subtracting? Very good, we're subtracting, so I'm going to go ahead and highlight that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight important words and important clues in the question answer choices. You ready? It says which statement is true. I'm going to highlight the word true because, you know, I've seen a lot of questions before that say which one is not true or which one cannot be right. Right? So I'm going to go ahead and highlight this so that I understand and remember that it's the true. So let's highlight A. It says Greg will have exactly half of his collection left. Okay, so left, it means for him. So exactly half. B says he's going to sell more than half to a card shop. Well, let's look at this. It says Greg will sell 4/10 of his collection to a card shop. Well, what do we know about tenths and their decimal points? Remember, go back to decimals. Yeah, we know that when we see the denominator of 10, we know that we can write that out as a tenth decimal, right? So we know that that's 0.4 or 40, right? So we can go ahead and say that, is this more than half of his collection? No, absolutely not, right? It's almost at a half, but it's not more than half. Okay, so we can cross out B. Let's check C. It says Greg will have less than half of his collection left. Less than half left. And then D says he will give more than half of his collection to his brother. Okay, well, let's look at D. It says he will give more than half to his brother. Remember, this is where we pull out the equivalency tables. We have a fifth here and we have a fifth here. Can someone tell me the decimal value for a fifth? Very good. The decimal value for a fifth is 0.20, right? So it says that he will give more than half to his brother. Is this more than half fourth grade? No, it's not. So we are left with two answer choices. It says that he's going to have exactly half of his collection left, or he's going to have less than half. So what do we have to do to find out how much of his collection is left? Very good. We can add these two values together, right? So I'm going to add 20 and I'm going to add 40. All right. And when we add these values together, we have 60 cents. Okay. So it says he will have exactly half of this left. Is this exactly half? No. This is not exactly half. We know that this is 60, this is more, and this is what he sold and does not have, right? This is not his. So it says Greg will have less than half left. Absolutely. He's going to have less than half. So you see, guys, this is a way, an example for us to go ahead and find equivalencies based on our equivalency charts and relating fractions to decimals. Now let's do a second example where we're going to compare fractions. All right, guys, you ready for this one? Okay, excellent. All right, it says an office had 3 baskets of letters ready to be mailed. The first basket was 2/10 full. The second basket was 3/6 full, and the third basket was 1/5 full. Which comparison is true? 1/5 is greater than 3/6. 2/10 is equivalent to 1/5. 3/6 is less than 2/10, or 1/5 is greater than 2/10. So remember, let's pull out our highlighter, and I want you guys to tell me what is some important information that I can highlight in this question. Very good, that he has 3 baskets, and notice how 3 baskets is in word form and not number form. It's really important to read very, very carefully when we're answering these questions. All right, the first basket was 2/10 full. So the first basket was 2/10 full. The second basket was 3/6 full, and the third basket was 1/5 full. Which comparison is true? We're going to write out 3 baskets, and I'm just going to draw them as circles. And I'm going to once again use our equivalency tables and the decimal to compare these. So the first one is 2/10, okay? The second one is 3/6, and the third one is 1/5. All right, fourth grade, so let's take a look here. 2/10, well, remember, we already should know how tenths are expressed in decimal form. It's 0.20, very good. Excellent job. The next one says 3/6, and the number 3 says 1/5. I want you to take the next 10 seconds to look at your equivalency tables and find out if you can find the decimal value to each of these fractions. All right, friends, did you find the decimal value to 3/6? You think you got it? All right, well, let's look at our equivalency tables. Do you guys know where you can find a 3/6 on here? Yes, right here. And what is the equivalent fraction to 3/6? Very good. 1/2, 2/4, 4/8, and 5/10. And we know that this is equivalent to 50 cents, 0.50, right? So I'm going to write that out right here. And then our last one is 1/5. Did you guys find that on the equivalency tables? Absolutely, it's right here, 1/5. Can someone tell me a few of the fractions that are equivalent to a fifth? Yep, 2/10, 3/15, 4/20, and 5/25, right? And then what is the decimal value? Excellent work, 0.20, very good. All right, so now we know each of the decimal values for each of the baskets and each of the fractions, right? So what we're going to do now is a really helpful strategy for you guys whenever you're taking your exams is to write out the decimal value on top of the fraction that it is. So 1/5 is 0.20, very good. 3/6 is 0.50, excellent job. 2/10, 0.20, very good. So I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a couple of seconds to fill these in. And I'm going to do the same thing after 10 seconds. You can check yourself with me. All right, everyone, let's go ahead. Go ahead and see if you can check yourself with me and see if you got them right. Alrighty, guys. So now that we have the decimal values around each fraction, we can go in and look at the fractions and really determine if these statements are true or not. So let's see. A says that 20 cents is greater than 50 cents. Is that true? No, it's not. We know that 50 cents is greater than 20 cents. The second option, B, says 20 cents is equivalent or equal to 20 cents. Is this true? Absolutely, it's true. We're going to go ahead and put a check here. I want to read the rest of the options to really make sure. The next one says 50 cents is less than 20 cents. Is that true? No, we know that 50 is greater than 20. And this last option says that 20 cents is greater than 20 cents. Is that true? No, 20 cents is not greater than 20 cents, right? 20 cents is equivalent to 20 cents. Both of these are the same. They are equivalent. And we can find both of these together on the equivalency table. Remember, 1/5, 2/10. These are the same thing. These are equivalent. And I'm going to write my equal signs right here to show that these are equivalent. So these are both the same. And we see them here. And so we see this equal sign here, and that matches up to our table. So we were able to conclude that these fractions here are in fact equivalent. And fourth grade, just to touch up briefly on this fraction model, I want you guys to remember that these fraction bars represent parts of a whole. Remember, we have our whole here. This is the actual whole on our fraction bar sheet, but we know that each one of these represent parts, and we can see that they are cut into parts. And we also can notice that the parts get smaller and smaller and smaller as the denominator gets bigger. I want you guys to really understand that although the denominator gets bigger as we go down the list, we know that in reality the fraction itself, that unit, is not big at all. This just means the number of pieces we have cut. For example, if I have a candy bar and I cut it into 2 pieces, that's a nice amount, right, for each one of us. But imagine if I had a candy bar and I cut it into 12 pieces. You would probably be like, oh, wow, well, that's not bad. Look at the denominator. But in reality, guys, look at the little piece that you would get. You would just get a tiny morsel of a bite compared to an actual half of a candy bar. So don't get confused on the denominators, guys. Always remember that even though the denominators gradually get bigger, this just means that the unit itself is smaller. It's not bigger slices, it's just more pieces, okay? So that's just a quick reminder for you guys. Okay, fourth grade, so the math challenge for this week is to write at least 4 different fractions that are equivalent to a fourth, a fifth, and a half. Here's a hint. Remember your equivalency tables, guys. All right, good luck, everyone. Okay, guys, that concludes our video for today. I'm so proud of each and every one of you for following along with me today, answering questions, doing your strategies, solving out the problems with me. You guys rock. You're super excellent. And I hope each and every one of you have a wonderful week full of happiness, friendship, and more learning. We're almost to summer break, guys, so work really hard towards this last push. All right, everyone, have a fantastic week, and I will see you in next week's video. Goodbye.